Smoking, grilling, getting hot and hotter, sous vide and chilling from fire and water.
Welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I'm your host, Darren. Today we got a special guest, one of my favorite YouTube creators, Mr. Phil Riddick. He is the Daddy Cooks YouTube channel on pretty much YouTube. He's got a Facebook page as well. Phil, welcome to the podcast. Introduce yourself. Let me know who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, sir. Well, like you said, my name is Phil Riddick. I'm a man with many hats, but as he said, I do have a YouTube channel called Daddy Cooks, where I just cook stuff. We'll get into that a little bit more. Good-natured, sweethearted, just all-around great person. Thanks for inviting me.
Where do you live? What do you do besides YouTube?
I live in Rayford, North Carolina. I chose this place because it's, one, the taxes are low, and it's kind of country. I was raised in the city, raised in south side of Chicago prior to joining the military. And I didn't want to raise my daughters, which I have 4. This is the Daddy Cooks thing. But I didn't want to raise them inner city Chicago because I was raised it was kind of hard, and I had to escape that. So after I joined the military, I settled down here in North Carolina. The weather's better and there's a lot less crime. Now, what I do for a living is, now I'm going to be cryptic. After 23 years of military service, I retired, United States Army Airborne Ranger Infantry guy. I still work in the Middle East, and on my channel, I call it Parts Unknown, as you know. So we still protect people in a certain area as a government contractor. That's what I do, my real-time government job. And then when I come home, I just do this and that just to, see if I can make any extra little bits of money.
Yeah, I know you from watching your channel. Every once in a while, you get sent to Parts Unknown, so you try to even check in from when you're there, and which it's hard for you to do any kind of cooking, that you can record, but you always attempt to. So
I sneak in a video every now and again when I can.
Yeah, I mean, that's the fun thing about YouTube. I mean, if you got a phone and an internet connection, you can do a video. So
Exactly.
So where is that part of North Carolina you're in? Is it close to Raleigh? Is it by Charlotte?
I'll say we are about an hour away from Raleigh, Durham. I think we're like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm not gonna say dead center. We're closer to Raleigh than we are to Charlotte, but we're right behind Fort Bragg. I am literally 15 minutes from the Fort Bragg South Post Commissary.
Gotcha. My son actually grew up in Wilmington, and they live outside of Raleigh now. So you're a little bit north of them then, right?
Yes.
Northeast. Cool. All right. So let's talk about, you're a military man. So how did you get into cooking?
See, that's crazy. That's interesting. I'm going to talk about the military for a second, if I may. Being a retiree, 23 years, infantry is a more, what's the word? I don't want to say violent. That's not the right word. It's a occupation where you do run toward the fire. You run toward the danger, that type of thing. And during my years in the military, you have your stints of where you're teaching things. So for a while, I was a drill sergeant, so people know me for that. For a while, I taught the United States Army Ranger School as a Ranger instructor. People know me for that. I mean, look at this stuff on my wall behind me. But anyway, so one of those, shoot them in the face type of guys. So after I retired, well, actually, let me back up. Before I retired, my mother-in-law, rest in peace, took ill. And I'm gonna get into how I started cooking. I'm kind of jumping around here, but she took ill. So my wife and my one daughter at the time went to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. If anybody's out there, ooh it. So she stayed there for months taking care of her mother. So that left me here at Fort Bragg. Man, you can only eat so many hot dogs and so much ramen, man, it gets old. So PBS became my friend. All right. The Frugal Gourmet, the Galloping Gourmet, Justin Wilson, Julia Child. Back in the day when the cooking channels were on PBS. I know you remember that.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I'm the same age, close to you. So I remember Just on Wilson, just
Yeah,
add a little wine, a little more
that's right.
wine.
Soda pop with the bubbles on top when you talk about a beer.
Yeah.
But I started watching those shows, and one, it was interesting, but two, I understood it, man. It was crazy. I was like, that does make sense. If you put these flavors together with this type of meat, that makes sense. And that kind of clicked. So I started trying it and I enjoyed it. And that's where the spark started. But where the actual cooking came in was my wife, when she came back, she was working 2 jobs. I mean, I was an E4, a specialist at the time, not making the most money. So she was working 2 jobs and she was tired. And Thanksgiving came around and she would always do a small Thanksgiving dinner, but I just didn't want to overwhelm her because I knew she was tired. So I got up and I just started cooking. I did the entire Thanksgiving dinner, man. I mean, obviously my wife prepped, greens and things like that, but I cooked everything. So by the time she woke up the next morning, happy Thanksgiving, man. I love that so much. And I claim Thanksgiving and Christmas as my own. And I started cooking more and more. That's where it actually started.
Yeah, cooking out of necessity is kind of the way I started too. I kind of grew up, um, having to cook for myself because my mom worked 2 jobs and when I was young. And so I had to kind of start cooking my own food if I wanted to eat. And, who wants to just cook, make cereal and, macaroni and cheese out of a box
That's
every day.
right.
So, and
That's
then
right.
when I was in my teens, I started cooking in restaurants. I was, washing dishes, and then I said, I'd like to be able to get behind the line and start cooking. So, like 16, I started cooking. So, the first probably 8 years of my, real working career, I was in the restaurant business till I figured out I couldn't make any money at it. So,
That's really, that's hard. That's a very hard industry, man.
but it got me, into cooking, and I always, been cooking. And, my wife doesn't like to cook, so I do all the cooking here. She would rather do other things than cook. She can cook and she has to, but it's not, she has no palate. She doesn't, she'll just cook, a box of macaroni and cheese and burn some chicken, and that's about all she can do. And she doesn't like to. So, I mean, so she loves it when I take over the kitchen. She'll do the dishes and I'll cook.
See, that's the way it is in my household. My wife can cook. She just doesn't enjoy it. I'm like, shucks, if I'm home, one, I'm gone so much. When I am home, come on, man, give me a kitchen, give me something. It's therapy for me.
Right.
It's therapy.
Yeah. And, it's like, you're like me, you get a passion for something, you want to continue to experiment and do different things and read up and study and find different, chefs that you can follow and that have different cooking practices and seasonings and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's fun.
Yes.
And it, keeps you out of trouble, right?
I wouldn't say that. I still find a way, man.
All right. So you pretty much started cooking out of necessity because, you were by yourself. So did you start out like cooking outside? Did you start out like just cooking inside and then kind of move outside? Were you?
I started cooking inside, and I started cooking things that were interesting to me. I didn't really start cooking outside. This is going to be kind of a crazy turn. I didn't really start cooking outside until I ended up working in Kuwait. All right, so I'm in Kuwait. We're working in our own camp, about 15 miles away from the Iraqi border, and then about a couple miles away from the nearest military base. But we had barbecue grills and we had our own kitchen. They had a community kitchen, about 3 or 4 stoves, 3 or 4, ovens, things like that, rotisseries and stuff. But no one really used it. So I got there, living my life, working, blah, blah, blah. And then I found out there was a group of guys that were cooking together. And someone comes by and says, hey, man, if you think you can cook, you might want to come over here. I was like, if I think I could cook, who do these people think they are? So I go over there, see what they're doing. Amateurs. A couple of them were pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Most of them were amateurs. And I was sitting in my hooch, and my boss, he says, hey, man, I'm going to Kuwait City to pick up something. Do you want me to bring you something back? I said, yeah, bring me something back interesting. Bring me back something I'd never seen before. And he brought me back an ostrich egg. this huge freaking ostrich egg. So after I figured out how to crack it open, because it's a very thick thing, I got a hammer and a screwdriver. So after I figured out how to get it open, I made a quiche, an ostrich egg. Actually, I made two because there was so much egg and yolk. I made two ostrich egg quiches. I think it was shrimp, spinach, ostrich egg, and then a bunch of other ingredients. And they were amazing. They were fantastic. So I let one guy try it, and word got around. I got people knocking on my door. Hey, man, I heard you can cook pretty good. Can we try that quiche? You know, and then for a while, my boss, the same guy, we try to one up each other. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see way, way, way back, man, 6, 7, 8 years, we just do taste tests. Before I started cooking, we try to one up each other, you know, go to Kuwait City, bring me back something I never had before. We're eating, kumquats and dragon fruits and stuff like that. It was just a taste test thing. Another instance, he brings back, we call it the Kraken. He brings back this cuttlefish. Man, it was huge. Hey man, can you cook this? I was like, oh shucks, I don't know.
So what it was pretty much you guys started Chopped back in Kuwait
Exactly.
back 8 years ago. So
Yeah.
before Chopped was even around, you guys had started doing that by just going to the local market and
Trying to one up each other. It was amazing. But that started the cooking thing overseas. And then I ended up moving from that job. That's when I was working IT. I went from instructing various things to IT. Then from IT, I went to a different country. Went to a different country, and then we started cooking. Me and my boss and I, I'm sorry, we started cooking because there were things we just couldn't get. We were in Kyrgyzstan, the Kyrgyz Republic, and if we wanted to do sausage, we had to make our own sausage. We wanted to do. I saw flying from the States to that place. I stopped in Heathrow, London, and they were selling Scotch eggs wrapped up in plastic. I was like, wow, I got one. I ate it. This is great. I want to make one. And I get back to the Kyrgyz Republic, and eggs are everywhere, but they didn't have pork sausage. They sold pork and they sold spices. So we made our own sausage, and then we did the Scotch eggs, that type of thing. But I started filming more and more and uploading to YouTube. And then that's how my channel, people started liking it, and it started growing, and I just kept doing it and kept practicing and kept getting better.
so what other type of cooking do you like to do when you're home or even when you're out? I mean, what's your favorite type of cooking? I mean, is it indoor cooking and outdoor cooking, or is it just like to cook no matter what?
I like cooking no matter what. My favorite cooking is something interesting that I haven't done. That's kind of complicated, and names have a lot to do with it. If you look at my channel, I have Baba Ganoush. Oh, I want to make that. Tiramisu. Oh, I want to make that. So if it has a sexy name and has a unique cooking technique, I didn't start trying sous vide until I started my channel. Um, there's a difference between grilling, barbecuing, and smoking. I didn't learn that until I started my channel. So it just kind of built. I watch videos, yours and other people's videos, and then I'll see a technique, and then I want to master it. I will not feel myself chopping unless I'm chopping properly, because that's a technique. And I just feel it's a disservice to my subscribers if I'm not gonna do it properly. I shouldn't be trying to do it. Does that make sense?
You're a perfectionist, and you can tell that because I've been watching you the last month and a half or so, getting ready to do your podcast, and I saw all the equipment you started buying and all the testing you're doing before you go live. I mean, you're testing, and your YouTube people are kind of following you and helping you out. But to me, that shows me that you're a perfectionist. You don't want to start off on a learning curve. Now, going back to that though, when you first started your YouTube channel, and you go back now and you look at some of your videos from when you first started to what you put out now.
My videos sucked, man. They were terrible. Let me tell you how I started. I started the YouTube because I was curious, and I just got home from the Middle East one day, and I was like, how do you make a YouTube video? That's a good question. So I made an account, trying to do some research. It wasn't that hard. My very first YouTube video is my daughters playing on a Wii. They were just playing on a Wii, and it's called Unbelievable. That was my first YouTube video, just messing around. And then my wife had surgery, and I was kind of documenting that and picking on her. I'm terrible. I got a great sense of humor, but everyone doesn't appreciate it. But that's how the YouTube thing started. And then it just took a turn and went into cooking, and it just stayed cooking.
Yeah. Like I said, I even, when I had Malcolm Reed and his wife on, I talked to him about that, which was when he first started. It was like 10 or 12 years ago. And some of his earlier videos is just him walking around barbecue competitions with one of these handheld VCRs.
Wow, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
And, so it's totally different from what he shoots today. Today it's just like he's in a regular, a professional, studio. A lot of times it's, well done. It's like, it's me too. I go back and I cringe when I look at some of mine, a couple of years ago when I first started. But I think we all kind of learn and we grow and we learn how to edit. I've talked to, several other guys that started out on YouTube, and, the first thing you're doing is you're editing on like iMovie or something, just very basic. And you're just trying to figure out what you're doing. And then,
I'm worse than that. When I first started, I didn't even edit.
yeah. Oh, there's
I
some
just
guys
shot
that
clips,
don't.
man.
That's like, Tom Horseman said he barely edits, but then again, he does shorter videos, and,
Yeah.
he doesn't do a lot of heavy production stuff. And, all of his recipes are simple, he's just, people watch him more for his personality and just to see what he's cooking on, that day. I mean, so, but like I said, I can tell you're a perfectionist just because just watching you set up for your podcast, you're wanting to start out of the blocks, ready to
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
You don't want people to think that you're just some hokey doke. You just want to be, I got this professional setup, and I appreciate that. I mean, I kind of I'm one of the guys that dips my toe in, and then I will, if I think it's going to be something I'm going to enjoy and something I want to invest time and money into, then I start, investing. And that's kind of like the podcast. I started out just kind of playing around with it. But then I started calling people like Malcolm Reed and Meathead Goldwyn, and they said, "Sure, I'll come on your podcast." I'm like, "Dang, these guys don't even know who I am, and they're going to come on my
Wow.
podcast."
Right.
So, and I said, "Well, this might be something." So, but it's another way to me to give back too. I've had a lot of YouTubers that I watched and appreciated, like Troy from T. Roy Cooks and Greg Mervich and some others that have helped me start my YouTube, life. And, they've helped me out by being on my podcast as well. So,
Oh,
and
they've
that's,
helped me immensely. They've helped me. Same ones you mentioned, T. Roy. He sends me. He has sent me spices in the Middle East. Greg, I've called and shot emails to him just to get advice. He's a big guy. He's a big dude. Hey man, I need your advice on this, and he's open-hearted with that. Who else? Justin Babyback Maniac. I've talked to him on occasion. Daryl Smith from Babby's Barbecue. I've talked to him. Just interacting with our YouTube community. And now I have this. Now I have you, Darren.
yeah, I mean, that's a good thing. And the YouTube cooks community is pretty open. You don't find too many with egos or attitudes. They are all willing to help each other because it's not a competition. I can understand, hey, I do something a little different than what, Greg does, and Greg does something a little different than what Troy does, and you do something a little different than what all of us do, but we're all doing the same thing. We're trying to help people and have fun when we do it, and learning as we go. I mean,
I was going to say that, and we learn from each other. Yes.
Yeah, because I watch your videos and go, you know what, he cooked it that way, but I'm going to try doing the same thing, but cook it a little bit different.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. That's what got me really started. I watched a couple of Greg Mervich's videos of Ballistic Barbecue. He did first one of the guys I saw do sous vide and sous vide brisket, sous vide and barbecue. And I said, dang, this thing might be something. And then, so I said, well, I'm going to try it, but I'm going to do it a little different. He cooked his all, well done, like a traditional. And I said, I'm going to try and see if I can make this thing medium rare and make it tender. And I did. And I was like, wow, that's what got me really involved in trying to do something like this. And, then I finally contacted him. He's like, yeah, great, man. Hell, we could help each other. That's what we do. And it's like, wow. So
Yeah.
I actually met him last year out in San Diego. I was out there for work, and I called him up. I said, "Hey, if you're not doing anything, can we go grab dinner?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm retiring tomorrow. Let's go." And went and had dinner. So I mean, it was great meeting him and everything. So he's a really
Man,
good guy.
I get so jealous because I'm gone so much, and I've met, not physically met, but I've forged relationships with some of the big guys, as you say, and they do get together, and I'm always gone. It kills me. But one of these days, man, one of these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, and it's fun. And I mean, even if we get together virtually sometimes like this, I mean, I like talking to other people that, share the same passion as me, that, you know, we're not making a ton of money. Our YouTube channels, aren't, we're not millions of subscribers. We're not making, pulling down a lot of money on it. We're just doing it to have fun and
This is true.
to help people and teach people and learn. And, it's more, I keep telling people that I'm doing this for 10 years from now when I retire. This might be a little bit of side income instead of having to work at Walmart as a greeter.
I know.
So let's take a little bit of a break here real quick, and then we'll get back and we'll start digging deep into some of your other stuff that you're working on. All right. We'll be right back with Phil Riddick from Daddy Cooks YouTube. All right, Phil. So we talked a little bit about, how you started on YouTube and all that. What are your goals with YouTube? I know you can only do it, certain times because you're away a lot for your job. What are your future plans for the channel? Are you continuing to try to grow the channel now that you're switching off and trying to do a podcast as well? Is this something that you're trying to build an overall brand, or what are you trying to do here?
What I'm trying to do, in a nutshell, is to come home forever. I'm tired of traveling. That's my motivation. I am with this current situation worldwide right now. I won't call it. You guys know what I'm talking about. So that's makes things kind of unstable. Don't when it comes to travel, how are things going to work? How long is this going to last? That type of thing. So in the meantime, I'm going to boost Daddy Cooks. Just I'm going to try to put out a video a week. I think that's one of the only things that's been holding my channel back, because I've been doing this for years, but I put out videos in spurts because obviously I go to parts unknown, the Middle East, and I got to work, and then I come back, blah blah blah. But if I commit to a video a week, I'm not going to say every Monday or every Wednesday. If a video a week to suffice, I think that will put some stability into my channel. People can count on that. All right, no matter what happens, I'm getting a video a week, and that should bolster my subscriptions. The podcast, the r-bop podcast, is just another outlet, and also possibly, if it grows, another revenue stream. You know how podcast works. Hopefully that can turn into something. But the ultimate goal is to make this. You see this room that I'm in? This is going to be office number 1 podcast, and then my kitchen will be office number 2, the studio. I want my house to be work. That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, honey, I'm going to work. Come upstairs, spend an hour, shoot a podcast. The next day, hey, honey, I'm going to work. Go downstairs, shoot a video, run right back up here, edit, YouTube channel. Make that generate money, and I can start flying my butt to the Middle East. That's my goal.
That's kind of what I'm working on as well. And if you see, my office here, this is my studio for the podcast and my editing room as well. So I kind of got it set up to do the podcast. I still got some stuff I got to kind of clean up. It's probably not where it's going to be eventually, but I just got my deck built on my new house. We just moved in this house about 3 months ago.
Congratulations.
And I had to build a deck on the back to be able to fit my cookers and turn it into a real outdoor studio. And
I saw that.
I just got it done. Yeah, I just got it done today. They finally put up the final piece of the railing around the outside, and so I just actually shot my first couple videos with my outdoor studio, and so that's like just like you said, that's what it's going to be. That's where I'm gonna shoot my videos, and then in here I'm gonna edit them, and then I'll do the podcast here, and then hopefully within 8-10 years when I retire from my day job, this will be something that keeps me sustained, while I'm also, drawing from my
Hopefully,
401k.
hopefully it doesn't take 8-10 years, man. Hopefully
Yeah.
just get it down, and hopefully this prospers.
Oh yeah. So, but I'm just doing it for the love of it. So I mean, it's not something where I think I'm going to be rich and it's going to generate 100 grand a year job or anything. But I'm not doing it to be famous. I'm just doing it to have fun. I like it. The more I get into it, the more I learn. It's like you. When I started learning how to edit, I was like, I first started, I'm like, I'm never going to be able to figure out this, this software. And then, I said, all right, I'm going to have to force myself. And I just started doing it. And and it started clicking. And I said, oh, okay, that's how you, so, and then the same thing with the podcast. I started this about 8 months ago, and it's like, how do I even start this? And, so I said, all right, well, little by little, and it's like, okay.
Man, you got me beat. I started this about 2 weeks ago. So
yeah, but see, you already got all the equipment. You got all the equipment and ready to go.
But you have the experience. I need to suck your brain and get that from you.
Well, did you put your first episode up yet? Did you load it up?
Oh, I have 7 episodes up. I'm being carried on Anchor. I'm being carried on Spotify, and I'm being carried. I just last week got onto Apple Podcasts.
Okay. Now I thought you were going to go through Buzzsprout, because Buzzsprout, man, is a.
I was going to go through Buzzsprout, but someone else introduced me to Anchor, and I went in that route, and I just stuck with Anchor. It just seems a little bit easier to me, and yeah, I just went with Anchor, and then I branched out from there.
Yeah, I started with Anchor, but that was before Spotify bought them out, and they were mostly mobile type. They were built for a phone,
Okay.
for an app. They weren't like if to use them on their website was not as they had a lot more things you could do on the phone or a mobile app than you could on the regular computer, because that's how they kind of started out, as like a cheap alternative just to be able to, for people who wanted to do it with their phones and mobile devices. But I guess when Spotify bought them, they kind of expanded out some more. But
on their website, they do have some widgets and some clinkets and stuff in there to help someone that doesn't have. Okay, back to the perfectionist part. That doesn't have the production. Everything, all my sound effects, all of my enhancements for my microphones and all that stuff is done right here. So I don't need to use their enhancements. So I just record. And this device, the Rodecaster Pro, it does everything internal, records itself on an SD card. I just have to convert it to an MP3, and I upload through Anchor. That's the only thing I use them for, is a platform. I don't use any of their software or anything. And it doesn't cost anything.
Right.
Spotify does have a fee. I mean, not Spotify, BuzzFeed does have a fee.
Yeah, they do, and I don't mind paying it, because I use some of their other stuff that they offer. So, but then again, it's all personal preference, just like cooking and eating, right?
Exactly.
There's going to be people use all different kinds of products. So, but yeah, when I started, like I said, I started out kind of slow. What am I going to do? So what do you, let's get into your YouTube videos right now. How do you, and when you started, do you plan them out? Do you script them? Do you have, how long in advance do you plan a video? I mean, do you like take 2 weeks in advance, go, I'm going to do a pot roast video in 2 weeks, and I'm going to line everything up? How do you do it?
Off the cuff, man. I will ask my wife, or I'll ask my kids, or I'll come up with something. Hey, I want to cook this. So the next process is, if I've never cooked, if it's something I do all the time, it's easy. I'm just going to cook the thing, get the ingredients. So I have my format: introduction, supporting cast, prep, cook, taste test. So when it comes to my YouTube, if you look at my, not my earlier ones, but if you look at my more modern YouTube videos, it always starts that way: introduction, supporting cast, prep, cook, taste test. As long as I stick with that, I already have my editing done, because I cook in those segments. So that makes my editing piece easy. As far as planning a video, I figure out what I want to cook. If it's something I've never done before, I will do some research. I'll either read up on a couple of recipes, or I'll watch many, many videos on how other people do it. And then I just pick and choose. If someone's using mustard and someone else is using Dijon, well, I don't want to use mustard. I'll take the Dijon piece. Same recipe, someone's using mayo, someone's using Miracle Whip. Well, I don't want Miracle Whip. I'll take the mayo. So I'll watch a bunch of videos on how people do it. That gives me ideas of what ingredients I want to use. So I'll make that mine. And then cooking technique, bake, broil, saute, because you can do back to Scotch eggs. You can deep fry Scotch eggs or you can bake them. So then I determine what type of cooking method do I want to use or do I have available? Do I want to do it inside or outside? I get the idea and then I don't script. I just I do my introduction and talk about what I'm going to do. Supporting cast is easy. Just lay out the ingredients. Prep, I choose what I want to show. Am I going to chop this and show it top down, or I'm going to mix this and show it from the front, that type of thing. Cooking, if I'm outside, I'll show for the barbecue folks. If it's outside, I show the barbecue piece. For the inside folks, if it's on the stove or the oven, I got to show them that piece. And taste test just a done deal, and then just close out. So I don't write a script. It's like we're talking now.
Yeah.
I just kind of let it go. I'm a fluid speaker, and I've spoken in front of so many people as a military guy, instructor, or in charge of a group or an organization. I'm comfortable speaking in front of a camera, so I don't have that problem. I just figure out what I'm cooking, how to lay it out. Very rarely do I do a second take, but sometimes it happens. And edit, cut out what's ugly, keep what's pretty, upload to YouTube.
Yeah. When I first started out, it took me probably the first, 5 or 6 videos before I got really comfortable talking to a camera, pretending there's somebody there watching you, but I'm like you, I tried to script some and it just didn't feel natural to me. Exactly. And so what I did, instead of scripting it, I just thought to myself, I'm going to pretend there's actually that camera is a person and that I'm actually showing that person who's there how to do this. And that's how I'm going to talk to them, just as if that's a person. And in my mind, that's a person, not just a camera or a phone sitting there. So, and just like I would show, my kid or my wife or a friend of mine how to cook this, that's how I'm going to do it. So yeah, I can't script things either, because and I try not to have to reshoot things every once in a while. The only reason I'll reshoot something is if my microphone stopped working for some reason.
Exactly.
Or I look at the piece and my head's cut off because I forgot to adjust the camera. That's about the only time. Or if my microphone stopped working, and I'll just go in and I'll do an overdub or something instead. But yeah, I do, like you said, you keep the pretty stuff and you get rid of the ugly stuff on the edit, and you just keep rolling. I don't stop. If I start flubbing for something, I'll just keep going. I'll stop and I'll re-say it, and then I'll just take it out in editing. And that was probably my first few videos. I had to learning that, because I would like start talking and then start flubbing and go, oh crap. And I'd have to go.
Then you stop and then you start over.
Exactly. And I'm like, and I said, you know what? I don't have to do that, because I can come out and cut that out, So
there you go.
Even with the podcasts, I figured I tried to script them. I do the guideline, do an outline so people know what we're going to talk about. So I don't like hit them, or if they don't want to talk about something, they can tell me, well, I don't want to talk about that, just so we know what the flow is. But I don't want to go into detail, because things could pop up in the middle of the conversation and we could go down a different way, and it makes the podcast better.
Exactly.
I usually don't have to edit the podcast too much. The only time I do is if there's somebody that's very inexperienced talking to or doing interviews where every other word out of their mouth is It's like I said, most of the podcasts are really easy, because I try to have a conversation just like we're sitting right next to each other, talking like friends, and most everybody.
We are friends, man.
I know, but
I appreciate the invitation.
So, I've had people like, even Meathead and Malcolm Reed say, man, you do a really good podcast. So how long you been doing it? I'm like, 3 months, So they're like, well, you really know the questions to ask and the conversations to have. So I really enjoy it. And so that kind of leads us into your podcast. What made you decide to start doing a podcast?
Oh, what made me want to do a podcast? I like to talk, man. I have the gift of gab. I've been told that over and over and over. And I was just doing a live. I do lives every now and again on, my YouTube channel, and people were like, "Man, you got a great personality. You say witty things. Things are funny. Blah blah blah. It would really be great." And this is key. It would really be great if you were doing a live. We could call in and talk to you. I was like, "Aha!" Like Eddie Murphy, "Aha!" So that's when I got this device. I found out about it, which gives me that capability, and that's all I wanted to do. So I ordered it while I was in the Middle East. It came here, and thinking about the whole call in thing, it was just, hey man, why don't you just start a podcast? It was just like that. Why don't you start a podcast? So I started doing a little bit of research about equipment and blah blah blah. Like you said, I'm a perfectionist. I'm a perfectionist, and I just started ordering a little bit of gear, and I started uh, looking at videos, podcasts about how to do podcasts, and I just put it in my head that that's something I'm gonna do, and here it is, man. I'm 6 episodes in. I'm being hosted in 3 different places, and hopefully, I can draw from your experience, and I can make mine grow.
Well, once you start getting listed on the different podcast providers, I mean, it'll start growing on its own. People just, I mean, you're going to have all kinds of different people out there, just like on YouTube. You got all these gurus that tell you, make sure your thumbnail, you're pointing at a picture or something, or, you know, make sure you use the right keywords and all that. I mean, the same type of thing goes with the podcast. It's a little bit harder to monetize a podcast unless you're really big, because there is a lot of podcasts out there, and there's some that, barely get any kind of listens. But I'm kind of, I don't know, I've been kind of lucky, and I think most of mine are like averaging 300 plus downloads, within a week. So, and I share them out on Facebook and stuff, but I don't get a whole lot. I can track where my listeners are coming from, and I don't get a whole lot from that. I get more just from people searching on Apple Podcasts and all that.
Man, if I could get 300 download, look, I've been doing this for 2 weeks. I got 70. I was like, whoop whoop.
Yeah, but you'll get more. And like I said, it's, podcasts are a different animal than YouTube. That's one of the things I discovered early on. I first started with this, whole fire and water cooking thing as a Facebook group. And when I started doing YouTube, I was really surprised. I said, I have like 3,000 members of my Facebook group, but I only had like 100 subscribers to my YouTube channel. And I couldn't get those 3,000 people from Facebook into YouTube. I'm like, I'd go, come on, guys, come over to the YouTube. And they're like, nah, we're over here on Facebook. And
Dude,
it's like
44,000 subscribers on freaking YouTube. I got 13 on my podcast.
so, I mean, so that's just every different platform is different. I mean, even with Instagram, Instagram, I've been trying to do more of that, but like I said, I mean, I've got maybe 600 followers on Instagram. I've got over 8,000, members of my Facebook group now, like almost 9,000 members.
Congratulations.
But I'm still, in the mid threes on YouTube, and then Instagram, I'm not even at 700. So it's just, people are kind of funny. They don't go from one platform to the other. And then the podcast people are probably totally different. They probably aren't on Facebook or YouTube. So
yeah,
I mean, those are the people that they're listening to podcasts when they're working out, driving to work, when they're doing something that they can't do anything else but listen to a podcast. I mean, so it's crazy. I started doing these video ones because I thought maybe I could start drawing some more. I didn't want to start jumping into doing the video ones and then it flopped. I tried to load some up onto YouTube that were just audio with a image on there, but they didn't work out too well. But the one up for Tom Horseman actually was pretty good. I mean, I got a lot of views on it, so I'm hoping this will boost it up some of my other video podcasts by getting some well, and it's like giving back to the YouTube cooks guys that helped me when I was getting started in YouTube. If I can have you guys have a way to introduce your channels and what you're doing to the people that follow me on either Facebook or Instagram or on the podcast or YouTube. I mean, it's great. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that have never heard of you before that are going to go check out your YouTube channel.
Hopefully.
And then, and then when you post it up on your, Facebook or whatever, people are going to go, hey, well, I don't know who this guy is that had him on there, but they're also going to find out a little bit more about you that they might not know too. So
yes, you're correct. You're correct.
but so I just, like I said, I thought doing a podcast was something that was just the next step for me. And it sounds like that's what you're doing for you. So what's your podcast going to focus on? So it's not going to be cooking, right?
No. My podcast it's called r-bop, Riddick's Book of Philosophy. And it's all about how and why people treat each other certain ways, or they do things to each other, just either quirky or serious or confusing things that people do on a day-to-day basis. It might be something that I saw. Why would someone do that? Oh, case in point, why would people buy all the toilet paper? And then you talk about that, or what makes you afraid, or how do you describe being afraid? Things like that. I have my daughter here sometimes, or get a call in, but it's all about people, not political. It's just about people. Why do we do stuff, or why do we not do stuff? It might be funny. It might be serious, might be quirky. That's the whole thing about Riddick's Book of Philosophy. Just what do people do and why?
Why do they make these bad comments on my YouTube videos?
Yeah. Why would they do that? Who doesn't like salt? People are crazy.
I mean, I get more people on Facebook than you. I've been kind of lucky. Every once in a while, I'll get somebody that'll just make a stupid comment on my YouTube video, and you just scratch your head and go, "This guy has just got nothing else to do in his life but leave this comment that doesn't even make sense on my YouTube video." So I know there's
I got a comment today on a video I did like 4 years ago. He says, "You should have added this, and you're sloppy." I was like, what video was that? I had to find a video, man. What are you talking about? You didn't add Parmesan and you're sloppy. I'm like, maybe I don't like Parmesan. What kind of comment is that?
I literally had one yesterday on a video, one of my first videos I did almost 2 years ago, that it was on top round. I sous vide top round, make it tender. And the guy's comment was, "The only thing I use top round for is to feed it to my dogs." And it's like, this video is like 2 years old. I'm showing you how to cook it to where you can actually make it tender and it tastes good. And and all he can say is, "I just feed it to my dogs." Like, what kind of person just sits around? I guess it's because of the situation we're in right now. They got nothing else to do, right?
Man, I can't count the crazy comments. And, most comments help you make the video, good or bad, help you make a better video. Constructive criticism, I got no problem with that whatsoever. It's just the crazy, you cook pork, gonna be hellfire from heaven. Hold on, man. It was a pork chop. I don't have religious issues against pork chop, and nor do I have health issues against pork chop. I understand people don't eat pork for various reasons, but don't send me to hell over a YouTube video, man. Come on.
You're right, and it's crazy that some of the stuff that people come up with, though. But it's like that on the Facebook groups too. I mean, every once in a while, I kind of tightened up my Facebook group about 6 months ago, because you get somebody comes in, all of a sudden they just start railing on people for the way they cook their food. It's like, dude, you don't have to eat his food, you know that, right? And everybody has their own personal taste, you know that, right? So. What do you care if the guy cooks his steak medium? Okay, you can eat it however he likes it.
No, not on the internet, man.
It's just nuts what
you
people
get the food police coming. They come with you. That's awesome.
It's amazing. But all right, so your podcast. So you just got it started. Have you reached out to some guests yet? I mean, sorry, I haven't listened to any of the episodes yet, so I'm gonna have to.
Right now, it's been just me, my daughter and I doing a simultaneous I got an r-bop YouTube channel, so we'll go live, but I'm also recording on this device, and then I'll record the audio later to my podcast host. I've had a couple of call-ins, but I haven't sat back and called and set up interviews such as your professional self. I have not gotten to that point yet. Come on, man. I'm 6 episodes in. I'll get there.
Yeah, and I don't know. When I first started it, my first couple was just me talking, and it didn't feel comfortable. It was more, I run out of stuff to say. I didn't have anybody to bounce stuff off of, and I'm just not comfortable that way. Just like you have your daughter there, so you guys can talk back and forth.
Right.
But my wife won't get on there with me. My kids, I can't even get them in one of my YouTube videos. So, and I don't know, to me, it was a lot different than doing a video and pretending that I'm instructing somebody than trying to have a conversation with a video or a microphone where there's nobody there to interact with. So
I understand.
when I first started, when I had my first guest, I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to do any more with just me talking. Yeah, I listen to podcasts where people are just talking by themselves, and I just can't do that. I can't read from a script or just
See, I was going to say that.
or
That falls
talk,
back into
yeah,
scripting.
or talk to a wall, pretend the wall's talking back to me. I can't do that. I need to have
I can't either.
somebody actually to, bounce back and forth with. So I promised myself, I'll get somebody. I'll call a buddy of mine and say, look, if I don't have anybody to come on, you come on. They're like, yeah, anytime you want me to come on. So, I mean, I'll have somebody on there, or I'll just, do something else. I'll skip a week. But so far, I've been really lucky. Just about everybody I've asked has said yes. I've only had one or two people that said no. But I've had, like I said, Steven Reichland, came on my podcast. I've had Meathead Goldwyn twice. I've had some of the other people from AmazingRibs.com. I've had Malcolm Reed and his wife on. I mean, some of these people that you were like, these people are never going to say yes, and you send an email and they're like, sure, when do you want to do it? And it's like, nice. So it makes you feel good. And then actually my best compliments came from like Malcolm and Rochelle. They said, you did a really good job, and I'm like, yeah, I've only been doing it a couple of months, but I've listened to some of yours and kind of like, well, you did a great job. So, and anytime you want me to come back on, just let me know. So
I'm going to pick your brain because one, tit for tat, I'm going to be coming for you, man.
Whenever you want, I'll be on. But
thank you, sir.
Definitely, it's a fun thing to do, and like I said, it's just like the YouTube cooks community. The overall big cooking community out there is the same way. People are open. They want to self-promote as well too. It's not just they're trying to help me. They want to promote themselves, and they know that there's probably people that listen to me and watch my stuff that don't know who they are, and that I'm introducing them to them. So, I'm glad to have them on. I like, talking to, new people. And so it's, to me, it's fun, and I learn stuff. So,
and we're helping each other.
Exactly.
We're helping each other. Yeah.
So what do you see in the future? You're going to keep, going to expand on the podcast, and now you got a separate YouTube channel for the podcast itself?
I do. Yes. I have the same thing. The podcast is called r-bop, Riddick's Book of Philosophy. The YouTube channel is r-bop, Riddick's Book of Philosophy. So I don't do solely video podcasts when I'm here. Obviously, I work abroad. When I'm here, I'll do a video and a simultaneous recording. If I'm not here, I'm going to take a smaller, dumbed down version of my podcast equipment, H4n, couple of microphones, some cables, blah, 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 stuff that'll fit in the carry-on. I'll take that with me to Parts Unknown and continue on just a solely audio podcast. But I'm going to keep it going, man. Our goal is the same.
Right.
To make this the job instead of the job the job.
But yeah, so I mean, that's with me. I'm loading my video podcast on my YouTube channel, but under a different playlist. But eventually, if it becomes popular, I might spin it off. But you and I both know when you start a YouTube channel from scratch, it takes you a while to get that built up, unless you have some momentum coming. I know that CJ, I kind of talked to him a little bit, had him and Kent on, and he just started a new barbecue only YouTube channel, because he's concentrating on the Ninja Foodie on his original channel, which he can draw from those people, and that's the good thing. If you already have something that's established, and like I said, with you'll draw some of those people from YouTube to your new YouTube channel, and also to your podcast, just not as many as you would like. It's like me. I got 8,000 people over on my Facebook group. I can't get them. If I could get half of them over to YouTube and Instagram, it would be really good. But you can't force them. I had contests to try to get people to do it, and it's still they're only going to be where they want to be. So
Right. Now, my fear is now that the Daddy Cooks platform, YouTube, that's popular. It's growing. I didn't want to keep throwing in talking head podcast type material, because then you will lose subscribers, because they come to that channel to see a guy cooking. They don't come to that channel to see a guy sitting here doing this. So I said it'd be best for me. I mean, every now and then to do a live, hey guys, checking in, let's, talk back and forth. That's cool. But if you put too much content, if you have an established cooking channel like I do, and I put too much other content, I could lose subscribers. That's why I just said, I'm just going to make a whole different channel and try to build that. And if I can get some carryover, like you said, then that's great. I was just afraid of trying to, if you got a channel where you do gaming and cooking, and you do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 gaming videos, and you start growing, you got a gaming audience, and you throw in a quiche and a loaf of bread, you're going to lose those guys. They didn't get there for quiche. Hey, if you sustain yourself with quiche, you can play better games. Okay, I understand the concept, but they might not go in that direction. You understand?
Yeah. No, yeah. If your podcast was about cooking, it would probably do a lot better. You wouldn't have to spin it off. True. Like, Malcolm Reed, he loads his podcast on his regular YouTube channel because it's about him, and everybody goes there to watch him, and they talk about cooking and barbecue. It's the same topic. So to them, it's just added, they're not getting, like you said, they go to a gaming channel and all of a sudden the guy's, making a quiche, and it's like, well, what the hell's this? So, but I totally understand it. And like I said, it's something that's going to, you're expanding, you're trying something new. And I think you're going to be successful at both of them. So is there anything else you want to talk about that you got coming up that you, I'm going to put a link to Daddy Cook's YouTube channel and to the podcast in the description below, but make sure everybody that's listening, check out Daddy Cooks. Do you have a Facebook page as well?
I do have a Daddy Cooks Facebook. Yes, I do.
I'll put that down in the description below so people can click on that to find you. But if you just do a Google search for Daddy Cooks, it'll pop up, I'm sure.
It'll pop up. It'll pop up. And if you're on YouTube and you type in r-bop, it'll pop up. You'll see me and my daughter, you'll find me.
Is that one word? Just R-B-O-P?
R-B-O-P, r-bop, yes.
Okay. Now, so is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Since do you want to talk about family? How about your how old are your daughters now?
I'll see, you put me on the spot. If I get one of these wrong, they're gonna kill me. Okay, my oldest is 32. The one underneath her is 25. The one underneath her is 22, and the one underneath her is 21. Nope, I got one wrong. 23, 21. They're going to kill me.
Oh, anyway. Man. They're coming to breaking the door down.
The good thing is they're all adults. I don't have any babies. The bad thing is they're all adults and I don't have any babies.
Now, are they all, is some of them living with home still, or?
I have 3 in college, so they're still here. My oldest was gone, came back just for a while, just a minor setback. Didn't lose her job or anything. It's just minor setback, and home's always home. So, once she gets back on her feet, boom, she'll be out. But now we have the current situation in the whole world shut down. We'll see what happens. Love them to death. They're always welcome. I'm not always the friendliest guy in the world. See, I'm friendly on the internet because you only show what you want people to see, just like Facebook, just like YouTube. But dad's dad. Sometimes you got to crack down. I love them to death, but you're not going to lose your mind in the house. The only other thing I want to say is everyone be safe, be careful, wash your hands, don't touch your face. If you see someone sneeze, run.
Yeah, just stay out of crowds. That's for sure. Definitely.
Exactly.
I mean, now is North Carolina locked down yet? I mean, they haven't locked down Florida yet, so they're getting close.
They've locked down. They're starting to lock down a couple of counties where there's been a bigger uptick on cases. but it's not. They haven't locked down the whole state. They do want people to, what they call it, social distance. Stay home if you don't need to stay. If you don't need to go out, which makes sense. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it makes sense. Like they say in the news and other places, if we can reduce the curve. Don't want to overwhelm the medical system. But just be safe. Take care of each other. Like I said, someone calls, just give them that look and just, give them the
Exactly.
Heisman Trophy stiff arm.
That's it.
Yeah, man.
Hopefully you got enough toilet paper and, paper towels to
Good. I'll
last
tell
you.
you. I went to helpful hint. I went to a Staples and they had hand sanitizer. It was like six bottles. I took two. All right. I get to the cash register. This lady was like, "Oh, I haven't seen hand sanitizer." I was like, "Ma'am, there's 4 more bottles over there."
Mhm.
I could have easily bought all 6.
Yeah.
But come on, man. Get what you need. The
You
world's
know,
not coming to the end. Leave something for somebody else.
you
and
know,
move
she
on.
went and bought all 4 of them, right?
She probably did.
That's true. I mean, we didn't go crazy. We buy at Costco anyway, so we
Mhm.
buy the big thing of toilet paper, whenever we go anyway. So, yeah, did we buy a little bit extra because we saw people are going nuts, and
Of course.
you do, but I wasn't leaving there with my cart full of toilet paper. It's like
Yeah, I'm
there's
not
other.
buying out the store, man. And
I
look, I
mean,
got 5 women in this house, and women go through toilet paper like the butts got teeth, man. I don't know if they're eating it. I don't know, but I still didn't buy more than I needed.
right, and I bought some extra freezer stuff and things that maybe some non-perishable stuff that just in case. We got hurricane season down here, which I don't know, you're kind of close to the coast up there, so I know you get some up there as well, but we get some of that panic buying at least a couple times a year here. So I mean,
We're in a perfect spot. We're a couple hours away from Myrtle Beach, a couple hours away from our beach, so we have the mountains to keep the winds from Florida, and we're far enough from the coast so that we still get the winds and the occasional tornado, but we're kind of the earth kind of buffers us. We're in the perfect spot.
yeah. And we maybe like I think it was like 10 years ago, we had a couple storms come through real close on Tampa. Usually they go on the east coast of Florida. We don't get a whole lot usually on the west coast, but we still, whenever there's one in the Gulf, I mean, they or the anywhere near the Caribbean or anything, everybody starts buying stuff up. So it's just normal for us. People go crazy when they start seeing, so it's just like hurricane shopping. So
What's normal for us, this is the last thing I'll say, is in the wintertime, dude, being raised in Chicago, I'm used to snow. First snow, you got snow up to your knee, up to your thigh. Here in North Carolina, they get like a quarter of an inch. It doesn't even have to stick on the street. It just shows up on the grass, man. They start buying generators, shut down the schools. They start brining the roads. It's crazy. It's funny.
I grew up in upstate New York, right on Lake Ontario, so we got lake effect snow. So yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Phil, it's been great talking to you. I really appreciate you being on. Make sure you guys check out Daddy Cooks on YouTube and also r-bop podcast. Search for that wherever you get podcasts, but it also has the YouTube channel, so you can watch the video instead of just listen to it on the podcast. So thanks for being on. And also check out his Facebook page, Daddy Cooks. Just search Daddy Cooks on Facebook and it'll pop right up. Thanks, Phil. I appreciate you being on, and just let me know when you want me to be on your podcast. I'll be ready with bells on.
Will do, man. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this. Thank you, sir.
All righty. I'll see you again. And thanks for watching, everybody.